Hi there, this is Jen from modernmedicinelady.com, and I want to welcome you to another night of Manifesting Monday. I was having a few technical difficulties, so I apologize for my delay. And today I wanted to do a little bit of work on the idea of when we build it, or if we build it, they will come, but when will they come? And what do we do when we want it now and it hasn't happened yet? And there's this, I don't know if you guys have ever heard the saying that, when God or the universe closes one door, he opens another. That when God closes one door, the universe closes one door, they open another, but the hallways are a bitch, bump. So this is really about that process of honoring the hallways and honoring the fact that things often take a lot more time. Sorry, I'm just going to turn the brightness of my screen down so you're not looking at big purple on my glasses. Anyway, the whole part of just things do take time sometimes, and we just need to be willing to trust in the process. And one of the things that I've really been noticing for myself, and I've noticed comes up for a lot of other people, is we have these ideas of what success looks like, and we have these ideas of when things are going to happen and how they're going to happen. And we get caught up in the idea of the future as opposed to being in the moment of what can be, and also in what really is happening. And what I've noticed is a lot of times it's really useful to ask the question, what are the things that I need to do, or that I want to prepare for, or I want to anticipate, that would have me even more ready for my vision, for my dream, for my heart's desire. So I'm going to ask you to really think about this and ask yourself the question, so I have this idea, or I have this desire of what it is that I think or I believe I really want. So what is it? So imagine that you actually have it, that it is coming into your life. What systems would need to be in place to accommodate it? What experiences would be necessary? What do you need to create in order for it to be sustained? I think a lot of times when we do, we will forget that, or not forget, but we imagine what we want, but there are sometimes building blocks or stumbling things between where we are and where we want to be, and that in many ways we're not as prepared or ready for our desire as we might even think we are. So I like to think of it as like if somebody was anticipating the birth of a child, there's that period between the conception and the birth where you're spending time getting ready, where you are painting the nursery and getting all of the things that are needed for that baby, and getting the clothing and kind of getting the groundwork laid so that you can accommodate that, and it is something that you have space for. So that's a lot of what I was thinking about for this evening. Now, we are, in terms of where we are at from an astrological and a planetary standpoint, we are in the first quarter of the moon, and the moon is still in Gemini right now, which is a time for imagining and thinking and conceiving, and the moon is building up to full. It's going to be a full moon next week. We're also going to the spring equinox, so we're in our last week of winter here in the Northern Hemisphere, and we are anticipating spring. So this really is that place of building anticipation and preparing for things to come into being and preparing for things to exist at the same time that we are kind of in a holding pattern and a waiting pattern. So this really is a very good time for preparing and anticipating. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about in relation to this idea of if we build it, will they come, and but when, and what do we do with this now, was this revelation that I experienced and I had last week. And that was the experience of, as adults doing manifestation work, a lot of the time there's this energy that we carry around that is this hopeful anticipation. Sometimes it's actually sort of like anticipated disappointment even, or projected disappointment. Like there's a part of us that's fearing that we won't get what we want. But a lot of times as adults, when we're creating something or looking to manifest our heart's desire, what we have a tendency to do is either be hoping that something is going to happen and is going to come into being, or we are in a place where we are sorry, I got completely distracted by the button that says share the last 30 minutes on the blab. Anyway, so we're either hoping that something will come into being, or we are in a place where we are fearing that it won't come into being. Now, both of these states are about the fact that it does not exist right now. Neither of them are states of being that are in a place of trust or in a place of visualizing or imagining something being present in our life right now. So what I started to realize was that for most of us, not every single one of us, but for most of us, or many of us, there is a time in our life when, as children, we were anticipating a gift. Now, if you were raised in Christian society, or in even a secular American society where Santa Claus was really popular, and you were in a family that celebrated Christmas and or particularly had Santa come, I'm imagining that you may know of or have had the experience at some point in your life of absolutely knowing without a doubt that Santa Claus was going to be coming, and it was just a matter of time. There was no question as to whether or not Santa would arrive or whether you would be being given gifts. Now, and I just want to acknowledge that for some people, this is just not true. There are people where that's not been their experience. And in that case, I'm sorry that is the way it was. And if there has ever been a time for you where, say, for example, as an adult, even you ordered something online and you were watching your tracking order or the tracking numbers, and you knew that it was coming, you knew that you were going to be receiving it. This is the feeling that you know without a doubt that something is on its way and that it is going to be received, that you will be getting it. It is simply a matter of time. So I really want to offer that perspective and that way of thinking about things, the idea of feeling something, knowing something is coming and it is just a matter of time, as opposed to fearing that it will not be coming and being impatient because you're hoping it will come, but you're not sure if it will. And every minute that it doesn't come is more evidence that it's never going to come. And there's a really big difference between knowing it's coming and being patient for it to arrive when it's going to arrive, versus fearing it will never come and and having that impatience reinforce the idea that oh my goodness, maybe this idea was, at least for me, and what a different mindset is to be dwelling in that place of confident anticipation as opposed to dwelling in the place of fearing that if it doesn't show up, then it never will show up. And oh my goodness, will anything ever happen? So it seems like at this point in time, it looks like there are a number of viewers who are not people who can write in and ask questions. And some of my regular people appear not to be on for this particular evening. Because I was just thinking what I'd love to do is invite some people to come along. So I'm actually going to just post something up over on Facebook and just say, okay. There, that was just to send out a little beacon to say, hey peeps, come over and visit me and come spend some time with me. Because I can pull cards if people show up, but if I don't have anybody to read for, there's kind of not really a point. So I'm just thinking about, so how do we go from the place of frustration because something is not manifesting, going from the place of feeling like, when is it going to come? Or is it going to come at all? To a place of that trusting that it will come exactly when it's supposed to come, as it is supposed to come, and all is well in my world. So I think that the first step with this is to just really create a place of respectful honor for the feelings of frustration and to give some acknowledgement to the frustration and to take a moment to just settle into the frustration and let it be okay that there is that feeling of frustration. And as somebody who uses tapping and EFT, I'm a really big fan of tapping on the negative emotion in order to clear it so that it is possible to move forward beyond that. So I also think that another step that is really necessary when it comes to dealing with frustration around particularly the manifesting of our heart's desire is about honoring everything we've done so far and really celebrating and acknowledging all the effort that we've made and taking a moment to pause and appreciate and really stop and even to take some time to, I find sort of the paradox or the irony of frustration is that a lot of times the most effective thing to do when we hit that wall of sheer frustration of, oh my God, I've been making so much effort. I've been putting in so much energy. I've been trying so hard to get things to work. And here I am in this situation where it just doesn't feel like it's coming together. In my experience, and I have been running a thriving business since 1999, what I can say is that this is, interestingly or paradoxically, this is the time to stop and to go do something else for a day or an afternoon or something. Like when you hit that wall of sheer frustration. Well, hi there, Sloan. I'm talking about feelings of frustration when trying to manifest your heart's desire, when you've been working your freaking ass off on it and it hasn't come through yet. And what I was saying is that in my experience, the paradox is a lot of times when you hit that place of just sheer frustration, the best thing that you can do is stop, go to the movies, go out and go eat, go get some of your favorite food, go for a walk in nature, do something that brings you delight and joy, and step away from the project. Step away from the desire, step away from what it is that you are trying to create. Because a lot of times that getting the mind out of that place, particularly if you're in a state of sort of frenzied anxiety or in a state of kind of like trying to will something into being, that quality does not generally support. Oh, hello. Welcome. When you step away from something, it usually ends up lasting for months, as in if you step away, you stepped away for months at a time. And then now I'm imagining, do you find it? Yeah. And so I can tell you from personal experience, I don't know how old you are, but that was certainly something that was true for me. Yeah. My personal experience was until I went through what is called the Saturn return, when certain circles back to where you were in your natal chart. I think it's a lot harder to sort of get back on the horse. And so it can be a lot more difficult. And I don't know about you, but I'm going to grab my cards actually. I actually had noticed for myself that there was also this pattern that I really got into when I was younger, that was essentially this sort of vicious cycle of I would work so hard and so long on things that when I finally stopped, I would be so completely exhausted that I would just crash. And I would not only be dealing with my exhaustion from having pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed for longer than I should have, because I would always be kind of like, well, maybe I can just squeeze one more project out of myself, or one more minute out of myself, or one more drawing out of myself, or one more this, or one more that, that by the time I finally stopped, I would be so wiped out that I wouldn't want to go back to it. And I also noticed that I would do this thing where there would be this part of me, this like, sort of kid inside of me that would be like, no, I just don't want to do this because, I know that as soon as I go back into it, you're going to force me to do this more. So I would have resistance to getting back on the horse because I had a tendency to work myself too hard when I was doing my work. And I come to this whole process as a creative artist. I've been an artist my entire life. And so, getting involved in creative projects, I would do this sort of cycle where I would either be working and working and working and not stopping. And then when I finally stopped, I would just be wiped. So personally, what I found was that I had to start making the deliberate decision that I would actually stop before I hit my wall, because hitting that wall and start recognizing those signs of frustration, or those signs of sort of getting maxed out before I had gone to that place where I was already so far gone that it was going to take a couple months to get back on the horse. Does that make sense to you, Sloan? Yeah. So would you like me to read a card for you? Okay. So just think about something, maybe considering that we're talking about manifestation and we're talking about sort of feelings of frustration when you're working on a project or you're working on something that you're really hoping is going to come to be and it hasn't come into being. I don't know if that's something that's going. No, you don't have to pay anything. You're just here. I'm just reading. Yeah. This is my evening, my Monday night, just giving it away because I love it. So anyway, I'm just going to pull a card for you. So the card that I have gotten is the Seven of Swords, which is interestingly is the theft card. And sword cards represent mental abilities or mental activities and thoughts and thoughts and sort of the intellectual realm, the world of planning and ideas. And a lot of times when the Seven of Swords card comes up, it's a card that's saying, pay attention to where your resources are going, that there are ways that you are probably letting, it's kind of like the barn door is open and the horses and the chickens are walking out. That your mind, there may be something that you are so focused on and so distracted by or paying attention to right now that other areas of your life are kind of slipping through your fingers right now. And so this is a card that's saying it's really important to kind of take a moment and step back and look at the whole picture and assess where you are potentially letting go of resources. Where are you maybe being taken advantage of? Where are you giving away some of your power or your choices? Like, in what ways are you not on top of your game right now? Is this making sense to you? So interesting. I'm imagining if it's interesting that it may be making, yes, you understand it. Okay, good. Yeah. Yeah. So if this is related to, I'm imagining if you decided to jump on this blab, that probably the idea of you are probably involved in some kind of a creative project or some kind of a project of really wanting to create what it is that you want to be, some kind of a project. What I would say is there are ways in which there's probably some bugs or some holes or some gaps in your system where you're losing energy. It's like there's leaks in the system that is going to be affecting your ability to complete what you want to be completing. And part of the reason why you may be having some of the challenges you're having is that there's some sort of there's stuff kind of walking out of the storehouse, as it were. And it's not uncommon with this particular card, with the Seven of Swords, to even sometimes indicate that you are in a situation where you are actually losing resources because other people are taking advantage of you. But I think it can also be very much about you're distracted and you're missing things, and stuff is just slipping out slipping out through your fingers. And even from the standpoint of things like not realizing or recognizing when a bill is coming through, and so you're getting charged with extra interest rates, or late fees are coming in, the ways that distraction can cost us a lot of money and cost us a lot of effectiveness and the ability to accomplish what we want to accomplish. So hopefully that made some sense to you, and will give you a little bit of a clue about the direction of maybe what you want to be looking at and how you might be able to sort of look for sort of leaks to your resources in order to be able to be more effective and more efficiently. Excellent. That's great. I'm so glad. Yes. So going back to talking about the idea of stepping away from frustration, I think it is, oh, you're very, very welcome. Glad to meet you. So, and by the way, if you are curious and want to learn more about the kind of work that I do, my website is www.modernmedicinelady.com. And if you are somebody who's interested in things like intuition, and particularly if you find yourself a really sensitive person, please, you can go check out my quiz, what's your empathic type, and go take that and just kind of experiment and see where you fall on that spectrum. So thank you so much for joining me today. And I'm assuming your first two initials are MF and your last name is Sloan, so probably makes more sense to call you MF. But anyway, going back to talking about frustration and about the idea of taking that break and recognizing when we're starting to hit those feelings of frustration, when we're starting to hit those feelings of coming up against that wall before we actually get to the point where we're so exhausted, where we're so overworked, where we're so expended that it's going to take, upwards of days, weeks, or months to get back on the horse again. And as I was saying earlier, in my experience, it does get easier. Like, I believe that creative discipline is something that we do have to learn how to do. And it's not something that most people are ever taught in this culture. And, we usually have had some parent breathing down our neck to do our homework, or maybe we didn't, and we didn't necessarily know how to get things done. But in my personal experience as a creative person and as an artist, it really took a number of years of sort of working with and learning how to navigate and manage my own energy and my ability to complete things in order to be able to get back on the horse quickly, so that I wasn't in a position where I was just constantly doing that cycle of work, crash, work, crash, and then ultimately losing a great deal of time. So one of the things that I've learned for myself is that it's really important to include quiet time, downtime, moments for pausing on a daily basis, and definitely on a weekly basis, to have some quiet time or some time for play and for actual fun, in addition to having times where I'm really focused and I'm really working. And then, making sure that there's extended periods of time for actual taking a break now and again. And I will say next week, actually, I'm going to be out of town. I'm going to be gone until the following Monday. So I'm going to be gone next week on the 21st, which happens to be the spring equinox, but it also happens to be my husband's birthday. And so we're going to be taking a little bit of time off, and I'm actually making the commitment to not take my computer with me while I travel, so that I actually relax. So I am practicing what I preach, and I am really encouraging both, I'm really speaking from both personal experience and like saying, if you really, really want things to work smoothly, letting go and relaxing is a necessary part of that process, because frustration is not particularly conducive to manifesting your heart's desire. So going back to that feeling that I was talking about of being like a kid who remembers or knows that Santa is coming, or that your birthday is coming and presents are inevitable, that it is going to happen, that is the feeling that we want to be working with when we are manifesting our heart's desire. It is that sense of it is only a matter of time. There is no stress. There is no strain. There's anticipation. There's excitement. There may even be like impatience for this thing to come, but it isn't that sense of fear that it will not be happening. It's this deep, deep sense of possibility of what can be, and a very, very deep relaxed state of allowing things to come. So, hi there, Carmen, welcome. I am talking about how, for the power of manifestation, and when it comes to manifesting our heart's desire, that it is so much more effective when we come from a place of hopeful anticipation and trusting that it is going to come when it comes, as opposed to fearing that it will never come. And I was saying that if you can recall a time in your childhood when you knew you were going to be getting presents, either for birthday or for a holiday, and it was just a matter of time, that quality, that energy is the energy that I think really contributes to letting your heart's desire come, as opposed to more of a state of worry or concern or doubt about whether it will happen, and just really relaxing into it. So this is why I was saying that when you hit frustration, sometimes the best thing we can do is just take a few days, take a few hours, take a few minutes, whatever, and just do something completely different to reboot and reset and recharge our batteries, so that we have that ability to let ourselves just go back to a place of relaxation and ease, so that we can then be more in a place of allowing things to unfold as they will, and from a place of trust, as opposed to from a place of desperation. Because if you think about social situations, in particular dating, and just sort of a general rule of thumb is most people understand that desperate people generally are not the people that are particularly desirable or attractive to other people. And I think that's true when it comes to heart's desires and any project that you're trying to manifest. If there's that feeling of desperation, it's almost repellent to the universe. Whereas when there's this quality of relaxed ease and confidence, in the same way that that is what makes a mate attractive to another person, that feeling of relaxed ease and calmness and confidence when it comes to manifestation will help the universe sort of direct things towards you. And when I first started my business many years ago with tattooing, one of the things that I noticed was that the less I focused on the results, and I mean, obviously I was concerned about the results of the actual service that I was providing and the work I was doing, but the less I focused on success, the less I focused on how many clients I had, and the more I just did the work that was in front of me, the more astonishingly booked I was, the more effective my business was, the more easy everything got to be, and the more it just came effortlessly. And the next thing I knew, I was booking like 4 to 6 months out. And I was in a situation where I really was not, my concern was, oh my goodness, if I have to schedule or juggle my schedule, this means I have got, I'm so full that I need to worry about where I can fit this person, which is definitely a first world problem. But it was a revelation, number one, to discover that there are consequences of success. And that actually goes back to something that I was saying a little bit earlier too, which is that when you're in this in-between stage between your vision of what you want to manifest, building it, and then waiting for things to catch up with your vision, what are the things that you need to implement in order to accommodate the system? How do you actually have an effective system to accommodate your vision, to accommodate your dream? Are you actually as ready for it as you think you are? And that's something that I think we don't necessarily always ask ourselves, but is a really important thing to be thinking about and asking. Particularly, so I will use, for example, if somebody was in a service profession or a coaching business or something like that, even having the structure for taking people's names and, doing client management, having something set up for payment, all of these kinds of things that may not seem that necessary, these are all things that it helps to have them set up in advance as opposed to being sort of backpedaling later. And I think that a lot of times if we ask ourselves the questions, what are the things that I need to be anticipating and prepared for assuming or imagining, if I just imagine that that my success is inevitable and it is coming, it will be here. What are the things that I need to prepare for, that I want to create in order to be able to effectively accommodate it? So in the same way as I was saying that if there's a baby has been conceived, there's that time of preparing the baby's room. Sometimes when it comes to preparing the business, yes, hiring a coach who has already been there definitely has great value. And also I want to say, hiring a very seasoned and skilled VA who has an understanding of systems is really helpful as well. But that said, it's not necessarily about you knowing what it is you need, but it is about going out, getting the information, talking to somebody who can help you and support you to know what systems you need and getting the systems in place. And having that ability to recognize that sometimes anticipating those systems is the thing that needs to happen before everything all falls into place. And especially if you can accommodate one sort of size of business, but you want to expand to a new one. One question I think that is really important to ask is my business ready to expand to this next level? So Carmen, would you like me to pull a card for you? I've been pulling cards as I've been going along today. I'm just going to mix up my deck. Yes. So just be thinking about something that you are curious about, if there is something in particular. You're very welcome. And I also want to say that a good coach is worth their weight in gold. Okay, let's see. Ooh, excellent card. You got the Priestess. And she is reversed, which means that I would say there's a couple things going on. When a card is reversed, it generally means that you're in a period of integration as opposed to complete action, that you're in a period of coming to really grasp and understand what's going on and really working on sort of sorting out the details. I've always said that when it comes to reversed cards, if your life was a car, you'd be in the shop right now. You wouldn't necessarily be on the road. Nancy, hi there, welcome. And Nancy is visiting Australia right now, so so God, it must be early in the morning for you, like crazy, ridiculously early in the morning for you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So right now I'm reading a card for Carmen, and then I'd be happy to read a card for you when I'm done with this one. So Carmen, with the priestess card, priestess is all about going into your inner wisdom, going into your intuition, going into your knowing. It's very much about knowing things intuitively and having an innate sense of connection to what is true based on your own inner knowledge, based on your own inner guidance, as opposed to following rules, following systems, being externally driven. Now, with this card being reversed, my sense is that you are probably coming into understanding your intuition at a deeper level and coming into understanding how to work with this muscle, and how to really work with this for yourself, and even coming to terms with Oh, excellent. And even coming to terms with whether or not this is really how you want to work it. If you have tended to be a pragmatist, if you have tended to be somebody who has been more sort of like, cross your I's, dot your I's, cross your T's, have things figured out, be able to look at it on paper and look at things from a really logical, rational way. This card is saying there's a whole other way of approaching things, and there's a whole other universe where you are completely welcome, and where your power, your wisdom, your intuition, your guidance is going to bring you far further than you ever were able to get using just your pragmatism and your common sense. But my sense is that you have probably been around, all your old tricks aren't working. I'm imagining that you've probably been around a fairly, I don't know whether I want to say male-dominated world, but a world that's been sort of more kind of based on reason and logic and rational approach and sort of, following a system. And all of a sudden, it's like the universe is inviting you to step away from this. I don't know whether you are starting to make connections with a lot of women and sort of making that connection to kind of the empowered sister tribe that's starting to build up all over, at least virtually, but all over the world right now, where there are so many badass women who are doing amazing, amazing things and making those connections and starting to support each other, and also saying things like, it's really okay for us to do this in a really different way than our male counterparts have been doing it. And also it's really okay for us to be doing this in a way that that defies the rules, that defies the way that people were telling us to do, that we don't have to follow it step by step. It doesn't have to be linear. It doesn't have to be logical, that there's just this instinct or this insight of the way that to approach it. And it's more of a feeling sometimes than it is even like, you pick up a book and follow, step or sign up for one of, an e-course and follow it step by step by step. And that can be really uncomfortable, particularly when you're in the awkward in-between stage, particularly when you're in that, the hallways are a bitch stage, and that period where you're transitioning from the comfortable, logical, rational world that you had been in and moving into something that is a lot more flowy, a lot more based on the intangible, and more just sort of based on a sense or a hunch of how you sense you should be going, as opposed to the direction that that it can be very uncomfortable when you're so used to following reason, following logic, following order, to suddenly just sort of have the universe kind of throw that up in the air and say, we got something completely different for you, sister. And we want you to step beyond your comfort zone. So this feels very promising to me for you. This feels like, and I'm imagining that you're probably in coaching. I just, or if that you're maybe, and that you're probably starting to, but you're at that point where you're like, yep. So where you're probably like, I could be doing this in a whole new way. I could be experiencing this or approaching this in a completely different way than I'd been approaching it before. And it's like you are headed in a direction that is going to be so beyond, tapped out with one-on-one pride. Yeah. My heart goes out to you. I think that is just so inevitable for, and how do you leverage it, and how do you extend it, and how do you turn it into something that is going to be nurturing and fulfilling? And especially, how do you get rid of and fire the PIA clients that are not being respectful and that you are chasing? So this card, to me, feels like there is so much hope and possibility. I also think you are going to be rebranding. Like you are going to be going through some major, and I don't know if you have any kind of like travel plans or retreat plans or sabbatical plans or something coming up in the next like 2-3 months or so, but something where you're going to be doing something really, really different, stepping outside of your comfort zone, and also something where you're really going to be doing some mind expanding. Because my sense is that the next couple months, you're going to be getting a lot of information. You're going to be getting a lot of new ways of thinking about stuff. And then my feeling is that come like July, August, you're going to be starting to really implement things in a whole new way. And you're going to have some offerings that are going to be really exciting. And you're going to be taking things to a whole different level. And by August, September, you're going to be getting ready for a launch that is going to be really exciting with a whole new way of presenting yourself, like like reconfiguring your identity, reconfiguring your brand, and offering something really, really different. And also really finding and offering to a different ideal client, like that you're kind of, and that's part of what's happening too, is that as you're changing and you're shifting, your ideal client is also going to be changing and shifting. And some of the things that you were tolerating and putting up with before, they're just not flying anymore. And you're not in a position where you want to be holding people's hands and encouraging them to grow. It's sort of like you want to be working with people who mean business and are ready to do their work, not people who are sitting there wavering. And so my sense is that you have the next like 5 months of your life are going to be absolutely remarkable. And by October of this coming year, you will be like, oh my God, I am in a completely different place. Bless you too. And if you're interested in learning more about the kind of work that I do, check out my website, www.modernmedicinelady.com. And if you are interested in learning more about yourself as an intuitive and as an empath, I've got a quiz called What's Your Empathic Type that is on there. And there is a guidebook that I am in the process of just finishing and sort of getting the last bit of proofreading done that will be going out very soon. So please check it out if you feel like it. Excellent. Thank you so much, Carmen. I hope that was helpful. I'm excited for you. It looks like it's going to be really good. Awesome. So Nancy, how are you doing? Are you having fun? Yes, I know. I've been seeing the pictures that you've been posting on Facebook, and it looks like you're having a blast. So what is it, like 7 o'clock in the morning there right now? Or is it a little bit later? Oh, it must be actually later. Oh, it's noonish, yeah. I've got a friend in New Zealand, and sometimes I can keep track of the time. So would you like me to pull a card for you, Nancy? Yes. Okay. So think about something in particular that you'd like some kind of guidance on. I'm just playing with my cards. I'm like, look at my flowers. Aren't they beautiful? I wanted to bring them over so you guys could see them better, but I don't know if I can. Okay. Yeah, I'm a major fan of stargazers. Actually, oh, okay. Thank you. Check out my headband too. I got it. Yeah, it's got little rosettes. I'm so excited about it. It doesn't take much, you know. And I got my teeth cleaned today, so they're all sparkly. Okay. So, Nancy, you got the Seven of Wands card, and this is the card of facing a challenge. This is the card that comes up when you are up against challenges, when you're up against, I don't know if I want to use the word conflict, but confrontation, where what you, and my sense is that what you believe, what your will is around something, what you think the way something is supposed to go, you're in a situation where you've got your will and you've got your idea and your action and what it is that you want to do. And then you've got all of these other opinions and all of these other sort of forces that are pushing up against you and saying and challenging you. And in some cases, this is really about standing your ground and saying, this is what matters to me, and I'm willing to stand my ground for this. And this really is important to me. These are my boundaries. These are my limits. This is what matters. And then that's really where it's coming from. Sometimes, though, it is a card where it's really about saying, do I really want to be putting all this effort and all this energy and all this stress into making this, into fighting for this? So this is a card that's very much about you pick your battles. Is this a hill worth dying on? Is this what you really, really want to fight for? Is this what really matters enough to you that you need to be putting all that energy and that stress and that effort into it? Or is this something where it would be more effective to put down your arms and let the sort of the conflict just kind of pass around you? And many years ago, when I was much younger, I did some work with this person who did a lot of work around sort of the energetics of martial arts. And he was a great teacher. And one of the things that we did this exercise where we would imagine ourselves as sort of like grounded and just sort of like a rock kind of in a stream. And what we would imagine was sort of conflict or energy being kind of thrown at us. And instead of defend or sort of putting up our shields or sort of pushing back against it, what we would do is just sort of allow that conflict or that intensity to flow around us and to just kind of move around us. And so that we were more like a rock in a stream with the current going on around us. It's possible that I am reading another issue. What I would say is that if there is something really important and really relevant, and it's more important than the issue that you thought about, then it's probably going to come up in the card. So that sometimes you think you know what the question is, but there's something that's even there's something that's even more relevant and more pressing and more important to you than that. And so in terms of conflict and just dealing, it's like stop engaging, stop fighting, stop pushing, be the rock in the stream and let it flow around you, because the momentum of the energy and the momentum particularly of the different personalities that are all doing their thing right now, they're going to keep on moving, whether you are the one standing in the center of that or not. And you're better off letting yourself be the rock in the stream where they just flow around you than being in a situation where you're basically, getting bombarded by that inevitable energy that is on a trajectory. So it's kind of like you get to decide, do you want to be in the way, or do you want to just like let it flow around you or step out of the way? Yeah, I'm sure you know. I would imagine you know exactly what this is about. Um, yeah, yeah. Well, and some of it is recognizing your emotional engagement with it. Like, are you getting triggered? Are you getting in a place where when it starts to happen, and particularly if you've got, I'm sort of suspecting that there's probably other people kind of engaging with each other right now around you. I don't know if you are, yeah. So I think that part of it is about finding that calmness within yourself. Yeah. Finding that calmness within yourself and really like staying grounded and staying calm and not getting triggered to get engaged in that emotional momentum that comes up when you're around people who are in that heightened emotional state. Because when we're around people who are bullies and people who are very dominant and people who are very strongly opinionated, and they start sort of doing that thing where they start stirring the pot and they really get off on getting everybody else emotionally engaged in the situation, our job is to sink down, to sink our roots in, and to just go, oh, I know your MO. I'm just going to calm down. And I suspect you know this one, but you know, when you're dealing with a kid, when they're throwing a temper tantrum, and there's that point where you can either rise to meet their anxiety and sort of like engage with it and engage with their fear and engage with their emotional intensity, and it heightens the problem. Or you can kind of do that thing where you just kind of like pull back and just kind of like pull into yourself and kind of dial down your own intensity and just set your roots down and kind of settle into your seat and just kind of be more in that place of like, yeah, sucks to be you, kid. Really hard. That there's that quality of just stepping back, calming down, and allowing yourself to find your calm center and not let their anxiety and their drama and their intensity keep on, you know, pinging you and getting you engaged in the emotions. Because somebody in this particular story in particular really, really, just really benefits greatly from drama. Like they just love it. They get off on it. And the more they can get you engaged, the more difficult it is for you, but also the more drained you ultimately end up being. So I would say that just really, really focusing on that, being the rock, that the energy just continues to flow, the current of the energy just keeps flowing around, and not being, you know, sort of like be the rock, not the stick. So hopefully that was helpful. You feel that being the rock? Oh, so awesome that you found me today. And I know you're on the other side of the planet. It's amazing. And you're going into it's amazing. It's so cool. You're going, yes, you're so very welcome. I love the fact that you're going to experience the fall equinox and then you're coming back home for spring too. I love that. Yeah, and the fall equinox is on Monday. Oh, love right back at you. Thank you so much for showing up here. Did you find me because I posted on Facebook, by the way? Oh, it is so fun. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I've been really enjoying the blabs. It's really been a blast. And you never quite know what's going to come up, because every time it's like somebody has a question or something, and then it's all about responding to the question, as opposed to just, you know, having my own agenda. And then I keep on trying to come back around to my own agenda. And that was just, which was talking about, yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Nancy. It's so good to see you. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful time for the rest of your time down under. Enjoy the birds. Yes, I will see you after, definitely. I'll be seeing you very soon, as a matter of fact. I'm assuming you're saying OMG. Oh, okay. Yes. Carmen, do you have any other questions or anything before we wrap up? Well, I think what I am going to do is I'm just going to take a moment and I'm going to pull a card for the next 2 weeks. Since I'm not going to be here next week, I will be back on the 28th for another lab, but I am not going to be here for the full moon and the spring equinox, because I'm going to be out of town and celebrating my husband's birthday. So I'm just going to pull a card for this week, or actually for the next 2 weeks, and what we want to keep in mind and use as our focus. And this, by the way, is the time with the moon of the building time. It's like we're in the mother phase of the moon, going from that, you know, that we're going into that period of like into the full period. And so we've come from the new moon. We're right at the first quarter. We're building to the full moon, and then we're going to be going out of that full moon. And when I see you guys next, it will be right around the second quarter. So this is a really good time for using that lunar energy. The full moon that's coming is going to be a full moon in Libra. And Libra is all about balance. So it's a very, very good time to really find your equilibrium, find your balance, look at what is throwing you off balance and adjust accordingly. Okay, so one last card before I take my leave for the evening. And the card that I pulled for the next 2 weeks is generosity. This is the Six of Pentacles card. If I was going to use a word for this card today, it would actually be reciprocity. This was a tarot deck that I created when I was a lot younger. It's called the Healing Tarot, and it was a limited edition deck of 1,000 decks that I produced. And at this point, it's out of print, but I obviously have my own decks. But I would use the word reciprocity, because this is all about wealth and abundance comes from flow. Wealth and abundance comes from generosity. Wealth and abundance comes from reciprocity. And so that instead of it always being about what do I receive, it is about that as I give, so do I receive. It's also very much about that breath, that all actions are an inhale and an exhale, and an expansion and a expansion and contraction, that there's that ongoing ebb and flow. And so abundance, if abundance is not working in your life, I believe start with, what are you grateful for? That's always the first question. What is already here to appreciate and be grateful for? And then what can you give? What can you offer? What do you have of what skills and precious gifts do you have that you can give to the world, and that you can use to empower the world, and also can remind you of just how precious and powerful you are. And from that reciprocity, from that sending out into the world, we open up the channel for receiving. So this is going to be a time, and also with us going towards the full moon in Libra, this is about the idea of true abundance, true generosity, true wealth comes in the form of balance, that it's about give and take and a reciprocal exchange, as opposed to just nothing but profit margins or nothing but giving. And I will say, the one thing about when you're in a place where you've been feeling perhaps some lack is that it is important to give from your surplus, not from your deficit. And if you are really in a place where you are feeling just really stretched, then it's crucial to look at what your own personal limits are and look at where you're not stretched and maybe give from the place where you are not stretched. But respect that giving when you've already given too much, that's not the point of this particular card. So it's also very much about honoring and recognizing what your personal limitations are. So it has been such a delight to connect with those of you who came on and joined me tonight. And I'm so glad that you guys all came here and watched me blab at you. I hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful period of waxing into the spring equinox and going up towards the full moon of next week. I will be back for the second quarter in 2 weeks. And until then, I hope that you all have a chance to take a little bit of downtime and have a chance to just go out and appreciate the world around you, and also just really have some moments for reciprocity of sharing your gifts and the wonderful things that you have to offer the world, as well as having a chance to receive. And often I think that starts by just feeling gratitude. So thank you all for coming and being here with me. I look forward to connecting with you sometime in the future, probably in 2 weeks. And if you are, by the way, if you're curious about the work that I do, please go to my website, www.modernmedicinelady.com, and go take my quiz, What's Your Empathic Type? And also sign up for my mailing list so that you can get a bunch of awesome gifts from me, and also you can keep track of the kinds of stuff that I'm doing. So until we meet again, peace.